If we talking about breaks and shooters filling the lanes, all my dogs is down for war. You can tell how they train. Coaches coaching, players play, but they learn from each other. If the roles are versus Jason Kidd, we assist one another. Making strides for a ship in the regular season. Late up these nights, a band of brothers turn into some demons. Through the season, spring to fall, we gon' see who was working. When the winter hit the surface, gon' see who deserve it. Left competition in the dust, now the opposite deserted. Only lions in my circle, we hungry for purpose. Not just giving all the stripes, you can see that I earned them. Can't fuck the system, take the knowledge, you study and learn it. Be as strong as the weakest, 1 through 12 is equal. Tried to trap me, saw it now, you know I had to thread the needle. You know, I had to thread the needle, try erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins eating. Yeah, you know, I had to thread the needle, try erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins eating.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Coaches Show. For the coaches, by the coaches, we have a special guest in the building today. We have head coach Josh Pratt, Archbishop Spalding. How you doing, Coach?
Coach, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. Finally get you on here, man. You one of those guys. That's why I had to tweet today that had to get that flame emoji tweeted out there. We got some fire coming to the people today, and we want to make sure that we get the people what they want to know, man. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate being on.
All right, and the coaches out on the dry race board panel have prepared their pregame speeches. We're ready to jump ball. Our first question is coming from Coach Jennifer from Huntingtown High School.
What's going on, Coach?
Coach, what's up, man?
Too much, man. It's a pleasure having you on today. This is a long time coming. You definitely one of my mentors gave me a chance at coaching, brought me on staff, didn't have to, kind of got me jump started with this whole basketball coaching thing, and for that I'm forever grateful, man.
Well, it was a pleasure. You know me. It was a pleasure working with you guys down at Huntingtown, man. We've had some good talks. I knew you'd be a great coach, and congrats on Coach of the Year too, man. You've done a great job down at Huntingtown, man. I'm very proud of you.
Appreciate that, man. Likewise, because I know you got one yourself this year. So, it's another one on the legendary mantle of sports for you, man. So,
well, I appreciate
it. Yeah, absolutely, man. So we're gonna get straight into it. I know a little bit about you. I know some of the other coaches on the panel may not, and the people who are going to watch may not know too much about you, or as not as much. But tell us about yourself. Who is Josh Pratt? How did you get into coaching? And tell us a little bit about your journey up to now.
Well, I'm a product of PG County public schools. I went to High Point High School. I graduated in 1989. I loved basketball. It was really the only thing in my life. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 8. So basketball was something that, kind of kept me out of trouble. Not that I was a troublemaker, but, and I never made my high school team. So, Michael Jordan tried out once and got cut and then made it. I got cut 3 years in a row. I was cut my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. And a guy named Steve Brown, who was, in my opinion, a legendary athlete at High Point. I used to play pickup down at Beltsville Rec Center, and a 20-minute conversation really changed my life. I just sat there and asked him if he thought I could play in college. He said, absolutely. He told me about Montgomery College, Germantown, which is a JUCO. Now Montgomery College just has one team. Back then, they had 3 teams. So I went up to the Germantown campus and met a guy named Steve Hobson and played there for 2 years, and he really did change my life. And one of the assistants there was Mike Glick. So I've known Coach Glick since I was 17. So I've known him for a good 30 years. And that's kind of how I got started in coaching. He got the job at Pilati after I finished. So I started coaching. I was 23 years old, just coming out of college and, still hooping and things. And, that's kind of how my career started. I coached at Pilati. Pilati was in the Washington Catholic League. So I was there for 5 years as a head JV coach, varsity assistant. And then, Glick got the job at Spalding. I went with him over to Spalding. I was an assistant with him for 11, 12 years before I actually got a head job. And my first head job was at St. Mary's Annapolis in Maryland, obviously. And it was the MIAAB conference. I was there for a year. And then Towson Catholic came calling. So I went from a MIAAB conference team to a nationally ranked program. And a lot of that was, you know, we had nationally ranked teams at Pilati and Spalding. I was kind of building up a good reputation as a varsity assistant, JV coach, and that's kind of how my career went. And then I've bounced around a little bit, you know, and ended up down in Huntingtown for a couple of years. And, you know, everywhere I've been, I think I've made the programs better. And I've had a lot of great experiences along the way, quite honestly.
Absolutely, man. You have been a little bit of a journeyman, but I can definitely attest to saying that not that we didn't have you know, a pretty decent program, because, you know, as long as the school's been open, we've had pretty programs or teams. But once you got there, from the, you know, you took a team with exactly the same players, and that had a well below 500 record, and then the next exact year, you know, we make it to Comcast. That was amazing. So you know, I'm definitely a witness of what you're able to do and what you can accomplish and what you have been able to accomplish throughout your career. So I appreciate that, man. It's definitely good to catch up with you and hear from you. I'm gonna pass it along to the next coach on the panel, Coach John Kamara, Parkdale High School.
What's going on, Coach Pratt? You know, pleasure to have you on the show.
Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
That
You know,
Panther in the background, man. I like it.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta get a background, man. You gotta get a background.
Oh, I will. I got to catch up with y'all, man. You know.
Yeah, no doubt. So today, man, you know, with me on the show today, I really just want to be all ears and just, you know, really hear about, you know, who you are. Everybody on the panel been saying so many great things about you. One thing that came across when we was doing our research, and I'm just listening to the coaches talk about you, seeing that we had something in common. Will said one of your stops were coaching girls basketball. You know,
Yep.
I coached middle school girls 1 year, and I think that really changed me as a coach, and that really landed me. That really, you know, helped me land my coaching job at Parkdale High School. So my question to you is, what was your experience like coaching girls, and how did that impact your coaching moving forward?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of funny. You know, Towson Catholic closed, and I remember I was with my wife at the time driving home, and I had a stint at Pilati. You know, obviously that's where my career started, and they actually called me and offered me the girls' job. And I said, well, I'll get back to you. And, you know, it took me 3 or 4 days to really think about it. It's like, do I really want to, like, when I say crossover, but do I really want to cross over and coach girls? I don't really know any girls coaches. I don't, you know, and the more I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe this is kind of my calling. Maybe, you know, maybe it's fate. And so I sat down and I talked to who is now my wife, and Jeannie and some other people. And I said, you know what, I'm going to dive into this. And it made me a better coach in a lot of ways. It made me more patient. How I talk to players, you know, how I can motivate girls. You know, girls' game it's the same philosophy, coaching wise. You got to motivate the girls. You got to have a good game plan and all those things, and be well organized in practice. But it's obviously below the rim. You have to be. You have a lot more powwows, if that makes sense. You really have to let the girls express their feelings. I think sometimes with guys you can motivate them and kind of get in their chest a little bit, where with girls I think it's more of a cerebral approach, and tell me how you feel type thing, and trying to get them on the right page. And I actually learned that from the girls coach up at Loyola at the time. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was telling me how many times they have like individual meetings, you know. But like pressing and philosophy and rebounding and tough drills, and just, I tell you, being positive, being calm, and really you know, really developing relationships with the girls. It really taught me a lot.
Definitely. I can, attest to all those, different things you said. And I think the hardest thing was the first part. And it was just, making that transition to see if you wanted to, cross over. But like you said, it definitely is a calling, and you just got to, have an open mind about it. And then, it's different, but it definitely keeps you calm. It, teaches you different approaches. And then, once you get back to the boys' side, you'll see that, it's a great lesson learned. So I definitely.
I'll tell you this too, Coach, like when like I remember playing at Coolidge, and we lost in overtime by 2, and I was pissed on the bus. I was upset, disappointed, second looking back saying I should have done this. And the girls are in the back just chilling and kind of laughing and giggling. It's like they've moved on from it, and I don't know if every girl's like that, you know what I mean? But it's like, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my, I could, those are little things. And they're like, Coach, man, we'll be ready to go tomorrow. Relax. And I'm like, all right, I don't know, just different, just different. In a lot of ways, similar in a lot of ways too, I guess.
Yeah, I experienced that before. I think we were playing like Greenbelt, and I think the boys won by 1 and we lost by like 3. And so I'm like, I'm in my feelings. We lost the game, and the girls, they just partying in the back of the bus with the boys. I'm like, man, I just lost. We just lost the game.
Yeah, man. They just how it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So I definitely appreciate that. So I'm gonna pass it to the next coach, Coach Antonio Williams at Bladensburg High School.
All right.
Yeah, Coach, it's great to get that insight, man. I too had one of those crossover experiences, but I didn't coach girls, but I actually had the opportunity to coach tennis.
Oh, okay.
And tennis really is a different sport. I knew a little bit about it because I always used to do sports camps back in the day with park and planning. So I knew the basics, We didn't have Andre Agassi and Serena Williams on our team anyway. But we did have some good players, man. But it definitely taught you how to manage the two, and it gave you a better insight on just athletes in general. And to piggyback on what you said earlier about coaching girls and boys, one of my good buddies, he coached girls for about 20 years. And one of the things that he told me, because I thought about coaching girls as well at one point, he said the difference between girls and boys is that girls have to bond before they can fight, and boys have to fight before they can bond. So you're absolutely correct on that one. So, and I never thought.
Great point. That's a great point. And that goes back to the little powwow meetings, and, being able to, really open up. And it's hard. I mean, because, last time I checked, I'm not a woman. So, it's one of those things where, you have to, I had a couple of females on staff and they're like, Coach, this is what they mean by this. And I'm like, all right. And it really, I had to take 2 steps back sometimes. But at the same time, coaching girls, again, with boys too, like if you're real and you're genuine and the kids know it, then they're going to play hard, and they'll understand you better.
Right. Definitely. So my question to you, having coached public and private school, can you tell us some of the similarities and some of the differences that come into those?
That's a really good question. I think obviously the difference is the type of recruiting you do. I think, public school coaches, you recruit your community. You develop relationships with your middle school feeder programs. It's important for you to go out and watch, a middle school championship game. When I was at Huntingtown, we did that for 2 years, the 2 years I was down there, and Tobias will tell you, like the high school gym was sold out. We're selling concessions. I'm developing relationships in the community, and things like that, and being able to talk to kids. And then that way, from a public school standpoint, maybe some of those kids stay because they realize that this is a really good program. And they can go to, if their goal is the next level, they can develop, out of Bladensburg, out of Huntingtown, wherever. And, from that aspect, that's important. I think on the private school end, you're going outside the county sometimes. With us at Spalding, we definitely, our number one thing is to recruit Anne Arundel County kids, because I get that question all the time. But there's also kids in Baltimore, the DMV, Howard County, PG County, other places that, Spalding gets, there's 60 different middle schools where students come to Spalding. And it's crazy. So, at the level at Spalding, you're recruiting against, Mount St. Joe's, St. Francis, but you're also, where we're located, at DeMatha, Gonzaga, those types of schools. And we have a little more leeway. We have a chance to obviously play more games. So that helps too from a private school standpoint. And we do clinics. I think a similarity is, for me, it's probably easier for me to get the gym than some public schools, because they have other sports and you got to go through park and recs. But if you can get the gym, my suggestion would be to run clinics, and again, that's a good way to develop relationships in your community. And once again, it goes back to being a genuine guy and understanding what you're about as a coach and what you want in a program. And I think parents will feed into that.
Right. And definitely, I get it, man. It's I know, like I said this yesterday or the other day, like coaching team takeover was like a breath of fresh air, because you had a bunch of kids that were from different schools, but the playing level was kind of like similar across the board. And I definitely understand that, because as a high school head coach, you in the public school, it's a joy seeing the development as well.
Yeah.
And then the other side, when you're able to recruit players and able to have players that fit your style and fit your system, and being able to help them develop as well, is also.
I agree 100%.
Definitely appreciate you with that input.
I think too, you get a kid, I think everybody goes through it, is, the better kids will go to the better league sometimes, not always, but then but that opens up an opportunity for other players. In other words, in the public school, a kid that might not get an opportunity will get that opportunity and all of a sudden develop and blossom. And there's nothing greater than a player coming back to you and thanking you because you gave him the opportunity. I just had a kid commit to Centenary University in New Jersey, a kid named Tyler Clark, 2 days ago. And, there's nothing great. It's just a great feeling. It's Division III. It's not high level Division I, but the kid has an opportunity to go play at the next level. It's great. So you got little rewards that way too, and again, going back to Hobson, my junior college coach, he changed my life. And there's things that I do in practice still that I'll never change, the sayings. I'm sure you got the same thing. There's things based on what you've learned that you just incorporate into who you are and make it into you. And then that's what makes you, a good coach, right? So I think that's important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that insight. Now I'm going to pass you over to Coach Will Maynard from Southern High School.
Will the Thrill. Will there?
Yeah, he's there. He just got his phone on me.
My bad. Yeah, my fault. Now, I'm saying that I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. It means a lot to me. I look at you like a brother, so I knew when I asked you to come on, you wasn't going to hesitate but come on in. Appreciate that. You know what I mean?
It's fun talking to you guys, man. It is. It really is an honor. This is the first time anybody's asked me to do this. So, it really is a pleasure being here.
And we appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I don't know if people know, you and Coach O actually played against each other this year. Good game, too.
Oh, yeah. He's got a good team. He's got a good team. He's well coached, good team. A lot of respect for them. And he knows my old AD, too, I think.
Who is that?
Jamie Cook.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Jamie, Jamie hired me at Indian Creek.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. So that was interesting. That was a good game to watch. You know, it's always good to see two of your friends go at it. You know me, I don't play my friends unless it's a scrimmage and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it's good to see two of my friends going against each other, two great minds, and I mean it was a great game. A lot of talent on the court, I'll tell you that. College coaches missed out by not being at that game.
Blaisburg's got some players now. Got some big kids that can play.
Yeah, Coach O was loaded over there. He was modest during the preseason. Then when I saw him versus you guys, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think I'd be modest either. Not with that. I mean, I wouldn't have been modest with that team he had.
That's funny.
So my question to you is, do you see a difference in the BCL now than when you first went in there as a JV coach years ago?
Man, that's a good question. I don't see much difference. I think there's some really good coaching that goes on. I think what's kind of made it maybe a level above from a coaching perspective is the scouting. You know, everybody's on huddle, so everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows the tendencies of your players. How you adjust in the second part of the season, I think's important. When you go back through and you're playing teams for a second time from a coaching perspective, right? From a player's perspective, I think from a player's perspective, I think there's a lot of talent in our league.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, there's some high major players. I think I have one in Cam Whitmore. I think he could be a top 50 to a top 25 player. And, you know, the talent's there. Going back, you know, when I was at Spalding with Coach Glick, I mean, you had Cardinal Gibbons, and they had some really good teams. You know, you had Mount St. Joe's with Pat Clatchy. I mean, he's a mainstay. You know, you got, you know, Mount St. Joe's and St. Francis there. You know, they've always been good traditional powerhouses. So overall, I think it's been great.
How does it compare to the WCAC?
I think, quite honestly, man, that's a good question. You know, I'm gonna be pro BCL. I think our top tier teams pretty much can hang, but this year they put it to us a little bit. I think our league is young, but you know, everybody knows how good the WCAC is. You know, they might be a step above us, quite honestly, but I think this year our league's going to be strong. And we've got some really good coaches in our league, but you know, WCAC, I mean, from top to bottom, their league's really good. You know, things like that. So I'll just kind of leave it at that, right? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not scared. You know, we listen, Carroll beat us pretty good, you know, and up at Loyola University in the beginning of the year. And that was a great learning experience for not only me, but for our team. And so, you know, from that aspect, it made WCAC look good because they beat us. But at the end, I would love to play some of these WCAC schools at the end of our year, you know, because we were playing much better in February than we were in December. You know what I mean? So, but they're the league. I mean, much respect to them. They got some really good coaches over there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, watching teams in your league and that league, definitely a lot of talented players and coaches. Definitely enjoy watching those teams play.
Like, quite honestly, I think St. Francis didn't play in the challenge. With Tolson and those guys, I mean, I think they were phenomenal. They had a really, really good team this year. So hats off to Nick Miles. I think they could have, you know, beat a lot of WCAC teams this year.
Yeah, you're not the first person I've heard say that. I actually heard a few coaches talk about how good St. Francis was. I didn't get a chance to see him in person, only on film, but everybody I've talked to, I mean, I remember talking to you about it, your assistant Kerwin about it, and all you guys was saying the same thing, that they were loaded.
Yeah, they were good, no doubt. You know, and again, I think, you know, promoting our program, I think we got a good young group. I think we're going to be very good next year. And, hopefully when all this virus stuff, disappears, we'll be back at it, and just like everybody else, right? So I think we have a chance to be really good next year.
Good to hear. I know you will, because you're going to be leading them to it. I'm gonna pass it on to Desmond Wade or Blake so he can ask you the next question.
Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Coach. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's good to finally meet you. Heard a lot about you from the guys, the socials, and now hearing your story. You went to Germantown. I went to Germantown as well. So it's
okay.
Good. Yeah.
Did you play for Hobson? Who'd you play for?
I played for Xavier Joyner. Who's now at,
He just got an assistant's job. I know Xavier real well.
Yeah. So I mean,
you got a job at James Madison, I think. He's going to be an assistant down there, right?
Yep. He just got that job. I mean, and then being that Coach Glick is one of my mentors as well. I talk to him often, so it's good to see how it goes full circle, man.
Yeah, man. He's a great Coach Glick's not only a great friend, but I've learned a lot from him. There's a lot of things I do in my practices based on what I learned from him, and he's one, man. He's a great coach.
Yeah, for sure. So just going to try to pick at your brain a little bit. You've been coaching for a little while. So who were some of your best players that you've coached or coached against?
Some of the players when I was at Towson Catholic, I coached against Kemba Walker. I thought he was phenomenal. Austin Freeman, that went to Georgetown. Well, Kemba went to UConn. Austin Freeman, Chris Wright. We played against St. John's. Who else? Man, that's a good question. Who else? Now I'm stumped. We had Dante Green and Malcolm Delaney at Towson Catholic. As a varsity head coach, I actually talked to Dante 2 nights ago. Still friends with those guys. I remember, I'll tell you this story. So we're playing Carson Newman, or not Carson Newman, Newman Goretti from Philly. Carson Newman's when I was at Newberry College, Division II school in Tennessee. Sorry. Newman Goretti in Philly. They had Ricky Jackson and Scoop Jardine, both really good players that were going to go to Syracuse. So we're playing up at Manley Fieldhouse, and we're the prime game, right? And Dante and Malcolm were obviously, were the big stars on our team. We're playing against Scoop Jardine and Ricky Jackson, and we're down like 15 in the middle of the third quarter. And Dante, he'll hate me saying this, wasn't really playing great defense. So I had to make a decision, and there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people there. Jim Boeheim and his staff are sitting at center court. And I made a decision to kind of play him more on the offensive end than the defensive end. I was going small. We decided to trap. And I turned to Malcolm and I just said, hey, man, you got to really help me take over this game. Stop deferring and start shooting the ball. And Malcolm, I'll never forget it. He finished with 29, had 14 in the fourth, and we came back and won that game. And I remember going into the locker room, and it's just a memorable game, right? So I'm all fired up, and I'm walking down the hallway, and here comes Jim Boeheim. And Jim Boeheim's coming to me, and I'm going, I wonder what he's going to say about Dante. And he comes up to me, and, it's a Hall of Fame coach, and kind of in awe. I'm just happy we won. And he comes up to me, and he says, what took you so long to bench him? Like he was playing awful. And that kind of made me feel good, right? I mean, a Hall of Fame coach. And he took a piece of paper out of my binder, and he put it up against the wall, and he says, this is what I ran when Carmelo just wanted to shoot threes, and we had to get him to the basket and, stop settling. And he wrote it, and I should have asked him to sign it, but he wrote up a play, and gave it to me. And we ran it too with Dante, because Dante's a 6'10" kid that loved to shoot threes, you know, and that's what he did at Syracuse. But, you know, that's a special moment, you know, especially with Malcolm scoring 29, because, you know, I think, you know, as a coach, guards are a dime a dozen when they get recruited at the next level, right? So
For sure.
Austin and Chris Wright and Malcolm Delaney and Grievous Vasquez and, you know, Hayes and, you know, all these guys. Jeff Teague was another one that they were all getting slotted into these big-time schools. And I think Malcolm played his senior year with a little chip on his shoulder. And for him to score 29 in that game just shows the character of him and what he was about. And it was just a pleasure to coach him. Another memorable time was I had a kid, Larry Bassfield, that played at Toledo, then transferred to Morgan State. And he ended up he had 25 points in a semifinal game at Towson University. St. Francis had Sean Mosley that went to Maryland. And again, it's kind of the same scenario. We're down. And that year, without Malcolm and Dante, it was kind of funny. We started out 2-9 in December. Everybody wanted to fire me. People basically, you know, said, see, he's not that good of a coach without the talent and all these things. And we played a high-level season. Well, we ran all 14 straight in January. We're playing well. We ended up finishing 22-12. We beat St. Francis in the semifinals, and Larry had like 15 in the second half, and we beat them in overtime. And probably one of the most memorable games was a kid, Vinny Breckenridge. He had 22, 23 points. We beat Mount St. Joe's when they were number one, and they had Henry Sims that was going to Georgetown, and Eric Atkinson ended up going to Notre Dame. And we ended up winning a back-to-back MIAA titles. And I think that's, for me as a coach, I'll never forget that game, because I feel like from a coaching standpoint, it solidified me as a coach. I wasn't just coaching talented kids. Like, you know, my two best players left, and we still won 22 games, and we were able to capture another title. And, you know, to start out 2-9 against nationally ranked opponents, and for those kids to believe in me, I mean, like as a coach, I'll never forget that. You know, I mean, I think those are things that you live for. And again, it goes back to your relationships. And I still stay in touch with those guys. And anytime we call, we talk about it. So those are, when you ask me about memorable stuff, like that's the stuff that I really remember. When I was an assistant at Spalding, we played against J.R. Smith and Danny Hurley. I've been fortunate to coach 2 nationally televised games. We both lost, which I'm not happy about, but we played against Samardo Samuels that went to Louisville, Corey Stokes that went to Villanova. And I'm coaching against Danny Hurley, and he's a head college coach. So, you know, we ended up losing that game by 3, but, you know, those are still great experiences. You know, I've been on both ends.
Nah, man. Coach, you dropped a lot of talented players. And
that's a long-winded answer,
awesome, man.
Sorry.
Nah, that was awesome, man, to hear all the people you've coached against. I mean, even from the coaching aspect, I mean, that's just a huge accomplishment. So keep definitely doing what you're doing, and hopefully, I definitely hope to get there one day, and make it out to get enough wins to get to a Coach Pratt social.
Come on out, man. It's a lot of fun. Hey, I know the owner at Langways, man, and I tell you, he does it great. I mean, he gives us free apps. I mean, drinks are on the coaches, but we really do share stories and have a lot of fun. And, you know, it's great because, you know, I think what's really missing sometimes are things like this, you know. I mean, you know, being able to meet new coaches, be able to talk and really kind of say, you know what? Oh man, I went through that. Oh, I do that. Okay, then, you know, oh, you do this in practice. I do the same thing. And when you're vibing like that, it's a good thing because it kind of solidifies what you do in your practice, right? And then the other thing is I think sometimes coaches kind of get caught up in their feelings and they take things personal, and that's something that I've learned over the years. Like, you have that competitive standpoint, but I think coaches need to have a mutual respect to one another, because at the end of the day, you're really trying to mold kids and trying to make them better and be successful in society kind of outside of basketball, right? So I think that's why I do the coaches social. It's not a typical round table, but people get a chance to kind of unwind and really kind of be themselves, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely look forward to linking up with you after all this is over with.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it to Coach Tobias Jennifer from Honeytown.
Coach. Me again. It's definitely you know, I've heard a lot of these stories, but you know, and old. I will say that they never get old. I enjoy, you know, hearing about the things that you've gone through to get you to where you are. You know, as long as you've been coaching, hopefully, at some point I can get to that. That, you know, with all the longevity and the patience and persevering and, you know, all the tough times, the good and the bad, you know, all those different things. So I can only hope to get to that point.
Oh, you'll get there, brother. Ain't no doubt about it.
So my question to you is it's very similar to Coach Wade. It's one of those memorable questions. And I think Coach O maybe had a video playing a little bit of that when you were at Huntingtown. And you know, I'm sure you know, maybe not. But it's been 4 years since you were last, or since we went to Comcast and had that magical run to the state semifinals. You know, so what I'm asking you is, can you put into words what that experience was like? You know, that year coming in, you know, first year in, new kids, new staff, and then you know, beating the odds really, because I would say in some of those games, and then, you know, making it to Comcast and kind of solidifying things, like you say, proving the doubters wrong. And then what are some things you would probably do differently? So what give us your experience. What was the experience like? And then what would you do differently?
Well, my experience at Huntingtown the 2 years was overall fantastic. You know, and what, you know, what I really truly hold dear is my relationship with you. I love watching you coach. I love seeing you grow. I think you're, you know, and I think I told you this when I met you. I thought you were going to be a really, really good coach. And, you know, I know your father figure down there, Coach Gross, was like, well, slow your roll, man. Don't fill his head too big, you know. But I always thought I still do. I think you're going to be, you know, as good as you want to be. And you know, it was a unique situation because I really inherited the staff. And so for me, instead of me coming in pounding my chest, I'm Coach Pratt. I've come from 3 nationally ranked programs. You know, this is how we're going to do things. I really learned a lot. I learned to trust my coaches, you know, guys like Coach Brooks and, you know, Gordon and Coach Jones and Coach Gross. I mean, I feel like what made my job easier and what made the ride easier was, you know, I feel like we're really good friends, you know, besides basketball. And, you know, any of you guys could call me on the phone and I'd help you any way I could. And I feel the same way. Like if I ever needed something or advice or maybe just hang out and talk, it'd be great. I mean, I just talked to Coach Gross like 2 or 3 days ago, and just to see how everybody's doing. I mean, I learned a lot philosophically. There's some things I do that I learned from you guys down at Huntingtown, quite honestly, that I do at Spalding. A lot of team type things.
Hey, Coach, I know this. I don't mean to cut you off. I know you saw something about the Indian run on the, the Last Dance, and I don't know if that's a story you want to share with the guys or not. But I could, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was like your first official practice. Maybe it was
probably the third. I think it was the third practice, and it was Saturday morning. I can share it. I mean, and quite honestly, I mean, looking back, it scared the hell out of me. But at the same time, I think that set the tone for the whole year. I mean, I'll say that. Saturday morning, and that's something that I learned. Like, I never practiced 7 to 9 in the morning. And you guys are like, nah, man, we got to practice 7 to 9, something that we've always done here. Really shows a lot of character. So that's something that I said, you know what? I'm going to get my rear end up. I'm going to drive an hour and 15 minutes down to practice. Not a problem. I mean, you know, if everybody's all into it, let's do it. So, you know, the one thing was you got to be on, you know, you got to be to practice on time. And, you know, Brandon and Brian Easton, who played basketball at Catholic University, were 15 minutes late to practice. And I scrapped the whole practice plan. And we ran for a good 45 minutes. And one of the drills was the Indian run. And what's funny is we call it the train, you know, but where you run around the perimeter of the gym, you put basketballs at the corner, and you can't hit the basketball, you can't cut corners. And you know what? All you got to do is make 2 free throws, right? So the guy in the front sprints, goes around the back, hands the ball to the next guy. Got to call each other's name out. You can't drop the ball. But you go to the line, and you got 10 seconds to shoot, just like in a game. You make both free throws, you're out. And the best thing about that drill is they all knew why they were running. And, you know, the biggest thing is I think it set the tone for the year, you know. You know, we did have one casualty, Daquan Potts, you remember that. But you know what? It made him into a better person. I think overall, you know, I haven't talked to Daquan. I hope he's doing well, but you know, it was a pleasure to coach him. I think we really, you know, that's a kid that, you know, again, it goes back to, I think Coach O asked me about public school and private school. That's the type of kid that you just love to coach, you know, and he's getting that opportunity at Huntingtown where he might not get that opportunity somewhere else. And, you know, I'm not going to, you know, take credit for the role models. You guys, you and Coach Gross and Gordon and Andre and Otis, you know, you guys were great role models for that kid, man. And, you know, those are things that, you know, even if, you know, 48, I'm not old, but those are things that I learned how to, you know, to be a better man, really, to be a better role model.
Absolutely, man. Those are some good times. I tell you what, that practice scared the living hell out of me. It was my first, really one of my first practices as a coach. And I'm thinking, God, man, we got to call the ambulance and this and that. And so it was wild. It was wild as hell. But you know,
man, it was. It scared me a little bit too. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, but you know, it's one of those things that happens. I'm sure, you know. But Daquan was fine, and we you know, we protected him and everything. But it goes to show you, you know, if you got practice at 7 o'clock in the morning, don't be out till 12 or 1 o'clock messing around and doing things you're not supposed to do, because it's going to catch up to you.
That's why we set that time at Huntingtown is so early. We used to have it at 6.
Man.
That game against CM Wright and even the game leading up to CM Wright against Magruder, you know, you want to speak on the experience of making it to the state Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to get a region title. I know you are, but you know, it means a lot to get a 3A region title down there. First time in school's history, to beat a legendary coach in Dan Harwood, who, you know, again, as a coach, from me personally, you know, it's only one game, you know, but to beat them and to beat a legendary coach and things like that, I think that kind of solidified my career too, really. You know, all of a sudden I'm getting invited to roundtables or these other types of discussions and things. And, you know, for me, that was another dynamic. Like, people actually want to hear what I have to say, which, you know, is very humbling and flattering. And then from the player perspective, you know, to see the joy on their faces. I mean, you know, you can see all the hard work pay off to cutting down the nets. I mean, I'll never forget that. I mean, and to do it with a great coaching staff and all the players. I mean, how about Ryan Albert finishing a great career at Marymount University?
Yeah.
To see guys like that really develop and succeed, And then the police escort coming out of Calvert County,
Yeah,
and we're on the bus heading to Xfinity, man. You know, that's great. I mean, we lost to CM Wright. I think, you know, some of that was their experience because they had been there before. You know, could I have done things different as a coach? Absolutely. Could we have done a lot of things different? I always look back and I don't want to say second guess myself, but I think any good coach is going to look back and watch the film and say, you know what, the next time I'm in this position, we'll do this. But to go 21-6 in my first year was great. And then I don't think anybody thought the following year we'd win the SMAC championship. And to beat Westlake, you know, the way we did and competed, and, you know, we lost 6 guys. I mean, and to come back and to go 17-7. And I, quite honestly, if we beat Potomac, we lost to Potomac, who got to the region finals against Poly. I think
state finals. I think it was state finals.
State finals, yeah. I mean, I think if we beat them, I think we go back. I mean, I had a lot of people come back, and even Raynard was like, Johnson, who's the coach of Potomac, he's like, nobody played us tougher. And, you know, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, could we have done things different? Absolutely. But I take responsibility for that. I mean, you know, no, I don't think anybody is perfect, and you just kind of learn from it. But just 2 great years, man. I mean, division titles. How about, you know, the best thing about that league is you get to coach in an all-star game at the end. That's kind of a reward for your season. Even those things, and to play against guys that are, you know, the SMAC is a really good league. It's, I think people undervalue that. I think, you know, there's a lot of talent in that league.
Absolutely.
A lot of good coaches.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's you know, we've had a couple SMAC coaches on in the last couple of weeks. Trey from La Plata, who you know very well. Dale Lambert from Thomas Stone, who you also know very well. And you know, SMAC definitely has a lot of talent. And just my opinion, I feel like in the last couple of years, we've sent guys to college, but I think we can even send more. We can get even more publicity, or good publicity. And you know, that's all I hope. It's all about the kids, and you've always been all about the kids, and that's what I love to see, especially what you're doing now at Spalding. And I had the opportunity to scrimmage you this year up at was it Parkville?
Yeah,
we scrimmaged up at Parkville, and you know, and here's the crazy thing. Some of the plays, well, I would say a good portion of the plays that you brought to Huntingtown that worked and definitely fit our kids. Fit our kids' strengths, I still use to this day. And I remember like one of the first 2 possessions of the scrimmage. I mean, you started running a particular play, and I yelled it out to our kids, "We know the damn play."
That's what makes it fun, man.
You know, so you know, that's what it's all about. And
like our motion, like I never, you know, coaching, I never ran 5 out. I never ran a 5 out motion like that. You know, and you know, now it's my main offense. Now it's my main type thing where, like, that's our continuity offense where we run sets off of that. And I learned that at Huntingtown. You know, there's certain drills I do, some fast break drills I do that I think are really good. And, you know, I think when you've done it long enough, you know, you realize that, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm going to, you know, one of the things I do is I always go to like a YouTube or All Access channel. And I really, not only do I watch and really kind of do, you know, take plays basically from college coaches, but I also watch how they interact with their players. And how they talk to their players and kind of their philosophy. And I go, oh man, that's a great point. You know, maybe I'll use that. You know, things like that. Our practice plan, remember us sharing on the Google Docs, you know, our practice plan, and, you know, being able to do that technology wise where, you know, Coach Brooks, hey man, you know, coach says, hey Pratt, let me have 15, 20 minutes. I want to do these 2 drills. defensively, and understanding your staff and what they're good at. And, you know, when we were at Huntingtown, you know, Coach Brooks, man, he's all about defense. So I'm all in. All right, let's do it, you know. And you know, a lot of head coaches might not do that, you know, where they trust their coaches to, you know, just run practice for 10 or 15 minutes on a particular drill. And then I become the assistant coach. Then I can see different things on the court while Coach Brooks is running practice. Then I can pull a kid aside and say, see, this position, this is where you got to be, because you're leaving your, you know, I always say, don't screw your teammates on the court, right? Be happy for your teammates. Really, don't screw your teammates on the court, you know. Make sure you have each other's back, you know. And if you don't get to a certain area, you're really kind of leaving your teammate out to dry, right? So that's a big deal.
Yeah, man. Well, Coach, I truly appreciate it. I got one more question for you down the stretch. I'm going to pass it over to Coach Will Maynard.
Hey, Coach, but before we get started, you're going to have to, if you want to, you're going to have to tell these people about the story you told us about when you was arguing with the parent during JV and coaching against kids.
Arguing with the parent, JV. What story?
You was at Pilates. You was coaching JV?
At Pilates.
No, remember you had to recruit, and then it would end up being the kid you wanted to recruit?
Oh, Landy Thompson story?
Yeah, you got to tell.
You want that story?
Yeah, you got to tell the panel this
All right,
one.
So I'm coaching JV at Pilates, and you know, we had a great year. We won like 32 games, and we're playing up in Hagerstown at the St. James tournament, and it's a carpet floor. And, you know, Coach Glick's at the end of the bench with the varsity staff, and I'm the head JV coach. So I didn't have an assistant at the time. So, like, I'd walk down to the end of the bench, and I'm talking to coaches and coming back. And Keith Stevens, who's the head of Team Takeover, was at Newport Prep. He was the JV coach. And he had a kid, Landy Thompson. He had Charlie Bell. Man, his JV was loaded. And so we end up winning. And at the end of the game, Landy Thompson's mother gets up and starts going off saying, because they ended up getting like you get a coach of the tournament, coach of the tournament or whatever, an award. So I go to this and I'm like, really? So I guess I got to go out there and get this plaque. And she goes, you need to give it to your assistant coaches. You need to give it to Coach Glick. He's the one who coached the game. Da 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 da. So I kind of get into it with her, and I said, well, that's okay. I was like, Coach Glick ain't going to coach next weekend and we're going to beat you in your own tournament, because we were going to play in Newport's JV tournament the following weekend. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Keith Stevens remembers this. He probably doesn't, but I do. It's kind of funny. So the following weekend, we end up beating Newport, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm like, and nobody said anything and everything's going on. So fast forward, we're at Spalding. That was when I was at Pilates. So we're at Spalding, and Coach Glick calls me on the phone, and he goes, listen, I got a big favor to ask you. So Landy Thompson played at Mount St. Mary's. He's in the Hall of Fame there. I talked to him, through Facebook, and still talk to him. He's happy that I got the Spalding gig. So he's just a great kid, a great player. So because I had a beef with his mom, he wanted to transfer to Spalding. So Landy goes, well, Coach, to Coach Glick, he's like, hey, man, you got to get Coach Pratt to talk to my mom on the phone. So I call, it's a true story. So God rest her soul too, she's a wonderful lady. And I sat in my mother's driveway, because I was living at home at the time, and I was on the phone with her for an hour and a half, and I smoothed things over and called Glick on the phone and said, everything's good. Landy's coming to Spalding. And it was great. And she, came up, she gave me a big hug. I would take Landy home sometimes. And one of the reasons why Newport closed, and we were able to get Landy. So, Spalding doesn't take senior transfers, but in that case, we were able to do it. And, he gives back to Spalding. He loves Spalding. Again, he was happy that I came back. And I'll tell you, a memorable game was he had 38. Remember Smiley that used to coach at Dunbar?
Yeah.
So we play at Dunbar, and they're in the tunnel chanting Spalding, Spalding, like that.
Who was on
And
Dunbar's team?
I'm sorry?
Who was on Dunbar's team?
I don't know. I don't know. They were pretty good though. I couldn't tell you offhand. But I just remember Landy dropping 38, and we beat them at Dunbar. And I think it was one of the first times that a private school in about 15 years had gone into a Baltimore City school and beat them. And that was a great moment. You know, I'll never forget stuff like that.
Yeah, I played against his Landy's. I played against TJ.
Okay.
Oh man, he was the truth.
Yeah, TJ was
He
good.
was he was the truth. He was the truth. He was the truth. I remember when he went to GW, I was like, oh, this kid's going. He was actually 2 years younger than me. I played against when he's a sophomore, and I was like, oh my goodness, this kid can play. So yeah, both of them they had some talent in that family.
Oh yeah, Landy just a great person. He's doing really well. Lives up in Hagerstown, I think. So he's doing great.
That's good to hear. So my question to you is, how's your experience at Spalding been so far?
It's been fantastic. Quite honestly, you know, and how I got involved with the job was kind of crazy because, you know, I had never seen Rudy play in the 14 years he's been in the league. You know, because he's always been on the West Coast, and you know they've only come back to play the Wizards once a year, right? So, you know, it's just hard to watch. You know, be able to watch them. Well, they played in the spring last year, and I was able to go with Coach Andy Sachs. You know Coach Sachs. We're all
my
friends.
boy. Yeah.
And he had tickets. So a kid that I coached that went to Rochester, works for SunTrust Bank, kid Timmy Brackney. You know Timmy. And Timmy and a couple of guys were at the Wizards game. They asked me to get involved with the Spalding job, and got to talking, and kind of word spread. And, you know, I had about 20 to 25 alumni email, call the president and the AD, and it's kind of how I got it back involved in the school. And it's really humbling. I mean, they did it unsolicited. So for me, it's like, I still can't believe it. Driving up there, and then I'm in a unique role. I've been teaching for 25 years, and this was the first year that I'm kind of in a mentor role where I've got about 15 to 20 students. I'm working in the Learning Resource Center, advising students, you know, checking up on their assignments and things, which is fantastic. So, you know, and I'm able to coach and, you know, I tell you, in the beginning, I think the players I think what helped me was when I got the job, I got it late. I was able to kind of coach the kids, but then when we got into the fall, to be able to coach them and then start practice, you know, there were some culture things that I changed. And, you know, but I had already kind of built a relationship with the kids, if that makes sense. So, you know, and still developing it really, because, I mean, it'll be a year in May. So that I've known the kids. So, but I think they respect me. I think they know. Again, it goes back to what I said before, being genuine, being, you know, I kind of know who I am as a coach now. Not that I can't say that, just personality-wise, and it's really, I've learned a lot over the years. So the experience has been great. Coach Parsons and Kathy Marr and, you know, the alumni. I've been able to get in touch with a lot of the alumni. A lot of people are happy I'm back. And it just motivates me more. There's a lot to do, a lot of work. Definitely the virus has slowed some things down, but, you know, through Zoom and what we're doing now, you know, being able to talk to FaceTime or whatever, all the technological stuff, we're able to kind of, just like you guys, I'm sure you talk to your players all the time, you know, so I'm very happy at Spalding. This is truly where I want to be, right? I mean, I've gone back now a little bit, but I do. I really love the school.
Yeah. I
I was
believe.
out this morning. One last thing. I was out this morning. You know, they sent an email, and a lot of schools are doing this, but putting out signs for the seniors, you know.
Mhm.
So I volunteered. So, you know, I got a 9 and 7-year-old. We've been cooped up in this house for 6 weeks. So it was nice to get out and put signs out and get these little party favors and make noise and congratulate the seniors, you know. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that they're gonna miss out on prom and stuff like that, spring sports in general. But you know, just let
But
you know, man, can't take anything for granted. Hopefully that everybody else understand that you can't take anything for granted in life, because just like that, blink of an eye can be taken from you.
no, I agree. You know, you got to make the most of it. I think positive is being around your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, you know, and better understanding, you know, who you are as a person, you know, and I agree, Will, man, you know, you got to appreciate what you have, you know, and, you know, I always say glass half full, you know, I mean, you got to put things in perspective. And, you know, in life, I think if you're old enough, you know, you always look back and things humble you. And this really is a humbling moment. And, you know, but I think people are itching to get back too, you know, so just I count my blessings every day. I really do. My kids are healthy. They're not sick. I'm healthy. I do pray for my wife. My wife still goes to work. You know, she's been going to work like, you know, so because Cintas is an essential business, but yeah, everything's been great, you know, so very fortunate.
That's good to hear, man. It's good to hear and good insight. I'm gonna pass it along to John Kamara, Parkdale High School.
What's going on, Coach?
Yeah, man.
So my question to you is, you know, having, you know, coming back to Spalding, what would be your advice to a coach, you know, starting a program from scratch? You know, you've been to multiple schools, and so what would be your advice to a coach trying to, you know, take over a new program?
I would say be true to yourself first. Have your game plan written down. I think the first thing you need to do is quite honestly find out who your team leaders are, who your best players are, and start developing relationships as soon as you get the job. I think talking to the players one-on-one, really getting down to what they're about, you know, what their motives are, what their agendas are, things like that. I think establishing a really good rapport with your kids is probably the number one thing. Any program I've been to, I know that I feel like I'm the one that needs to be flexible and understanding. Now, some coaches might come in and, like I said, pound their chest and say, this is my way of doing things. And I think you've got to understand the community, the dynamic of your program, and who's in your program, right? I think those things are important, but really establishing one-on-one relationships with your kids. You're going to establish your rules, right, for your program. But remember that, you know, and don't waver on those. But at the same time, you have 12 individuals on that team that have different types of personalities. You don't know what they're going through at home. I think from that perspective, if you understand it and they know that you care about them, I think you can get anybody. I think you can get your players to buy into what you're doing. Any program I've been to, the kids have bought in. I'll tell you a story, like, and Will remembers this. I think Will, Coach Maynard and I's relationship grew when I was at Chesapeake High School in Pasadena, and we were getting hammered. We were 2-18, and I tell this story a lot too. We were 2-18. I got the job 3 days before tryouts, so I inherited the staff. And the first time through the league, we're getting pounded by 35 and 40 points. The kids would look at me in practice, and they didn't really trust me, right? And I knew we didn't have a lot of talent. So I really had to sit down and say to myself, okay, how can I make this work? What can I do? And I completely changed my thinking. I completely changed my philosophy and practice. We did some fun contests. I actually played, and this might trip you guys out, but I played capture the flag with basketballs one practice. And it didn't turn into wins. But the second time through the league, we were much more competitive. And like a team like Glen Burnie, who beat us by 38, we're at Glen Burnie and we're down 2 with under a minute left. And I think the kids really started to believe in what we were doing. And I remember we lost to Old Mill. We actually had Old Mill beat there. And it was basically a 2 or 3 possession game in the second half. Would have been a great upset. But, Old Mill was just better than us. But and I remember one of my players standing up on the bus and thanking me after the game, saying, you really did change everything here. And we, our record didn't indicate it, but we really appreciate what you did. And that made the season, quite honestly. I mean, we got hammered, Coach. You go 2-18, if you're not humbled as a coach, I don't know what else will, and it was on me to change. How many coaches are willing to do that? Where, if you're a real true leader, you got to look at yourself first before you ask your assistants or your players to do anything. And I think, there's a difference there. Not second guessing yourself, not coaching, not where the players think, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's scared. He's just changing things. No, this is what we're going to do. I mean, this year at Glen Elg, I should have fouled. We're up 3 with 4.4 seconds left. Do you foul in the backcourt? Do you not foul in the backcourt? Some coaches don't. Some coaches do. Kid hits a shot, Noah, that's committed to Maryland, hits a fall-away 3. We end up going into overtime with 0.6 of a second left. I know, Garrett over at Glen Elk doesn't have a timeout, but ball out of bounds. I had a timeout. I called a timeout with 0.6 of a second left because I wanted to set my defense. I wanted to make sure that nothing was going to the basket. Well, do you call the timeout? Do you not call the timeout? I called the timeout. They threw it to half court. The kid just turns and heaves it. We end up losing by 1. We were up 2. So, those are things that as a coach you learn from. Some people might say, well, you should have done a better job time and score. You're right. But, if Noah misses the shot, then it's a great call not fouling, right? So, it's one of those things, do I let it go and they scramble? Maybe they get a backdoor layup. Then people say, why didn't you call timeout and set your defense? So those are things as coaches you just got to learn from.
Definitely. I think we had a couple coaches that said the same thing that you said, just look at yourself in the mirror. We had Coach Dale. He said the same thing. We had Coach Bolin and he said the same thing, just looking yourself in the mirror, having those moments and, getting kids to buy in is very important. So that's definitely great insight, for coaches that's trying to, build a program. So definitely appreciate that. I'm going to pass it to Coach Tobias Jennifer.
Thank you. Hey, this is probably gonna be, I assume, one of the last questions. I know we always have a different segment towards the end that Coach O gets into, but I feel like I have to ask this. So don't get mad at me. This is, we always say this is what the people want to know. So rumor has it that Spalding may be one of your last stops, and maybe the last stop for Coach Pratt. Give me your thoughts on that.
I want it to be the last stop. I think when I'm out recruiting, I think other coaches quite honestly use that against me because I have bounced around a little bit. But I wanted this job 10 years ago, quite honestly. They've had a lot of transitions since, the Glick regime. But I'm there to stay as long as they want me. And, at 48, I'm not getting any younger. Not that I'm old, but, there's been plenty of places that I thought that this it. This was going to be it. You know, I was going to stay and things, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And, you know, you're a young coach. I think, you know, I could see you being at Huntingtown for 30 years, man, no doubt. But if, you know, things that, you know, in order for a program to be successful, everybody's got to be all in, from a principal to vice principal to administration, to your coaches, to your players. You know, quite honestly, that all those things are important. And I think good, consistent programs have that, and everybody's on the same page. And again, I'm not perfect. I've made some mistakes along the way. I'd like to think I've learned from those. And I'm going to take advantage of being at Spalding. I want to be there. I want to build a winning program. You know, I don't want it to be a 4 or 5 year stint. I want it to be 15, 20 years, really. And, you know, but things have got to go the right way, right? So I think we're moving in the right direction, no doubt. And I think people trust me there, and people appreciate me there. And when you're appreciated, you work. I mean, I hate to say it. When you're appreciated, you work harder. You know, I mean, you're supposed to work hard. You have your own expectations, right? But it's nice when people say thank you, and, you know, you're doing a great job, and, you know, and again, it's about the kids, right? So when it's all said and done. So for me, if you would have told me 5 or 6 years ago, 2 years ago, I'd be at Spalding, I'd say there's no way. You just never know in life. And it goes back to what me and Coach Maynard were talking about. Appreciate the moment, because you don't know what life's going to bring you. And so I'm taking it day by day, but I appreciate being at Spalding. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a great place to work. It really is, man. And, you know, I want kids, you know, we're going to recruit, work hard.
Absolutely. You know, I've seen it, like I said, I've seen it firsthand down at Huntingtown. We don't recruit, but, you know, the changes and the things that you were able to do and implement and has been amazing. You know, and we're talking about, the last question was talking about a new program and taking over a new program and things like that. I didn't take over a new program. It wasn't in shambles or anything like that. We had a very, very successful couple years under you, and I felt a little bit of pressure trying to keep that up, honestly. And I don't know if I've ever told you that. You know, those 2 years that you had were phenomenal, and we had a lot of success. The year that I came in, you know, I felt a lot of pressure to continue that. But you know what? The parents, the kids, the administration, of course, as you know, and the AD, they were behind me 100%.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Why were we successful in 2 years? You know why. Why were we successful? It wasn't just Josh. Why were we? You know why we were successful.
I mean, it takes a village. And
yeah, I mean, it takes everybody. You know what I mean? And, you know, I think the challenge for you or for any coach is to put their stamp on a program. Yeah. You know, and take things that you're learning from other coaches, whether older or younger or whatever, and make it into Coach Tobias. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm very proud of you. I think this year you had a great year, and it's your program. There's no doubt about it. And you should be very proud of yourself for that. You know, I mean, and any good coach puts pressure on themselves to do well. You know, I mean, I think any good coach does that. I put pressure on myself all the time. You know, like I got to do a better job. I do. You know,
I tell you what was a lot of pressure as well. Christmas at North Point playing against Parkdale, and their coach not having a yet, and that was a lot of pressure on me and giving him his first win before I knew him, and now it's become a friend. So that was a lot of pressure as well. But now, man, everything's been great. Like I said, I'm very appreciative of you. I'm very happy and glad that you were able to get on here today and chop it up. And I can't. Hopefully, once all this stuff dies down, we can get to that we can get to that coaches social. Because
Oh yeah, man.
Hey.
Oh man, you know it's good. I'll
Now-
say this. I'll say this. Like, you know, if you coach long enough, you're going to have great wins. You're going to have really bad losses, and you're going to be humbled, and you're going to be part of the sideline where you're just living in the moment. And there's just going to be times over your years, I think any coach, where you just look back and say, you know what, how did we win that game? Or, you know, whatever. And those are the memories you got to take. And, you know, and for you, Coach, you know, Tobias, because you're a young guy, wait till a guy like Kedrick that's going to Washington College comes back after he graduates. You know, that's what's going to mean a lot to you, you know. And I think that's why people coach. It's just a lot of fun and just a lot of long-lasting memories, right?
Absolutely, man. You know, we every single day, you know, the guys who are on this panel, you know, I truly believe that, you know, these are brothers of mine. We've built those bonds, and every single day we build memories, and we talk and we chat and we talk, you know, talk BS, we talk basketball, whatever the case may be, and that's what it's about, man. You know, and so that's why I'm enjoying every day. You know, counting my blessings every day, especially with everything going on. And like I said, it's been a pleasure having you on. So, Coach, I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass it over to Coach O. And you're gonna close us out.
Yeah, great time, man. I'm sitting over here like we all do all the time, taking my notes, man. I want to just go back just a little bit, and I want to say, first of all, we feel honored that you were to say that this is your first time you've been asked to do something like this. Which, in my opinion, I'm sure the rest of the panel is pretty shocked about that, considering your knowledge and the absolute genuine person you are just for the game of basketball and for coaches like us. So we definitely say thank you again to you.
Well, thank you. No, seriously, that's the truth. I mean, this has been great, man. Hopefully I haven't been too long-winded, quite honestly. I mean, it's just, for me, this is great. I'm just really excited. Thanks for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we're not long-winded. We try to get people in and out, you know, kind of like Jiffy Lube, you know, fast service.
I know, I'm sorry.
Might not be quality oil, but might be the best oil in the world, but we get you out. Then the other thing I want to tap on too, I know John Kamar can remember this. My first time being a varsity head coach, we were 0-9. You know, rumors, young dude can't coach, he can't do this, he can't do that. You know, and we had a challenging team, I should say. But great guys. I still talk to those guys to this day. But our first W was against Northern High School, and it was a coach that had been there for years. I forget his name. He was there for a very long time.
Clarence Tennell.
Was it Clarence?
And actually, the game that we actually played against them, somehow the players wanted him out. He made them force him to resign, and then he came back right before our game, which was like crazy. And we walk into the gym, and we're tied up like 54-54 with like 6 minutes and some change left in the fourth quarter. And they were in a zone. We weren't a good zone team at all. We actually called 4 timeouts in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And Mike Jones hit a goal walk-off 3-point basket to win my first game. So that's a memorable moment for myself.
Good for you, man.
Had to do it. Yeah, so that was one of the first ones that we did.
In that old northern gym.
Yeah, you're right.
Legendary.
Yeah, so
That's
now
awesome.
The other thing that I want to talk about too, and I'm going to let you, this is what I'm going to close out for you to talk about, and I think it's important. I know it's very important. We had Coach Bolin on, and we talked about one of the topics that I asked him about was compassion and being a competitor. And what you said earlier about us as coaches, we can still compete against one another, but then we can have pizza after the game as well. Having coaches understand the need for us to better the game, not just for ourselves, but for our kids and for our respective programs. Can you talk about that a little bit more about, having that compassion for one another as coaches and that love and the drive, and then having that competitive drive as well, and keeping it even across the board?
That's a really good question.
That's why I think that sign. That's a good question. We up to 6.
It really is.
It's
It's a really good question. I think in the beginning of my coaching career, I used to take losses more personal. I put pressure on myself, and it would eat at me, where I couldn't sleep, and you're second guessing yourself and things like that. And I think what I've learned over the years is, the compassion part is, like, again, let's go back to Carroll. We got our butts handed to us in the second game. We start out 0-2. We lost to Gilman by 3 the first game of the year, and then we come back and lose by 40 to Carroll. And I think 15 years ago, I would have handled it totally different than I did. And we had alumni at the game, and I had the alumni come down. And this is the compassion part. The understanding that it's early in the season, but we have to talk to the kids. And I think all the parents thought in the locker room, because we were down there for a good hour, and I never hold my kids long, for an hour, but I felt like, this is the time we really got to kind of talk to the kids. And I brought alumni down, and the alumni talked about how Spalding was back from, the time we were there, from 99 to 05. And, and we had tough losses and all those things, and the grit and the grind, and saying, hey, we'll be fine. We're going to be okay. And then coming back the next day and really setting the tone in practice. I think, I remember stuff like that during the season this year. And I think, like I said, 15, 20 years ago, I would have rant and yelled and screamed and hollered and, you're not playing hard and you're selfish and you're this. And now you just put things in perspective and you move on from it. But understanding that you're the leader of the program, you need to set the tone as a head coach tomorrow in practice. And I'm not saying just walk into practice and just get them on the line and run. I'm talking about really teaching the kids that, watching film, watching possessions. So that's the competitive side. Like, my competitive side is, okay, what can I do to get this team better now? That's my focus. Me watching myself first, like I'll probably watch the tape 2 or 3 times before the kids do. You know what I'm saying? So the other part of the compassion part is talking to the kids one-on-one, man. Being able to pull them up at lunchtime, talking to them just 5 to 7 minutes, not some lecture, showing them clips, sending them clips through their phone. Hey, check this out. See what I'm talking about. I think when it comes to that, that's when you can, that's the compassion part. Hey, man, we're going to be fine, but this is what we got to get better at. If that makes sense, if I'm answering your question right. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it, compassion versus being competitor. I think everybody on this panel is competitive, right? I mean, you want to win and things, but, you want to be there at the end of the season, and so getting to your players, making a point, but then being able to put your arm around them and saying, hey, it's okay. And then the last thing is tough love, right? Being understanding and things like that. So.
All right, we thank you, Coach, man. Really appreciate you. And for the behalf of the panel, man, we want to say thank you and stay safe. And hopefully soon enough we'll get out there. I got to get to the social now. Even though I do not drink, I love ginger ale, though. So I get the rounds of ginger ale.
There's plenty of food, Coach. Plenty of food, man.
All right. Well, I do eat. That's for sure.
It's always good, Drink some. The first ginger ale's on me.
I got it.
we can share together, man.
Yeah, man. Will doesn't drink either. It's all good.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you again. All right.
I appreciate it, really. You guys stay safe. Right?
Appreciate you too. Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate it, man.
I earned them. Can't buck the system, take the knowledge and study and learn it. Be as strong as the weakest, 1 through 12 is equal. Tried to trap me, saw it out. You know, I had to thread the needle. You know, I had to thread the needle, dry erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins in. Yeah, you know, I had to thread the needle, dry erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins in.